Hi, I'm Talicza.
And I'm Rachael, and this is Transatlantic Crime, a true crime podcast that covers stories from each side of the pond. Every week, we will both cover a separate story with a running theme.
Disclaimer, this podcast will contain swearing and details that some people may find offensive. If you are of a sensitive disposition, listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Transatlantic Crime.
Crime. So close.
How was your night?
Oh, okay. Well, my night was good, but there were shots on offer and they were in plastic cups and they were called J bombs and I was like, that is neither Jaeger nor Red Bull. None of this is a genuine article.
What were they?
It's I think it was like an off-brand Jaeger bomb.
Oh.
And also I just had the worst heartburn. And then there was the variety of us there, but most of us are, in our mid to late 30s. And I was like,
Yeah.
Lads, has anyone got a heartburn tablet? And they were like, no. And I was like, don't fucking lie to me.
Someone has something in their bag.
Someone has some Gaviscon and they weren't giving it up. So I basically decided to go home. I think I went home at 11:30, which is pretty good for me.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah. I'm fine today, just super tired. And Carly stayed out till 4:30. So
She looked amazing, by the way.
I know. She looked like a dominatrix.
Yeah. So did you too, though.
Oh, thanks, pal.
And if our listeners follow us on Patreon, then they'll see Talicza in what she was wearing when she went out.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a video, a Christmas video, discussing American and English Christmas traditions and also some silly holiday Christmas stories. So if you want to enjoy those, they're being released on Christmas Eve as a little present to our Patreon followers. So head over there.
Yeah.
And also if you're new to Patreon, you'll get sent a sticker and a postcard as well. So
Yep.
it's all worth it. And we're gonna do more.
Yes.
And we
need
to do it more, we need to plug it more, we need to more.
I also, in that video, I also shared how my night went at the Chateau Marmont.
Yes.
Which I briefly mentioned in last week's episode, so...
Everything to play for as we go into the next round.
Exactly. Nothing to talk about today.
No, I am all talked out to you. No, how has your morning been?
Just really all over the place. I was trying to get ready for recording with you and trying to finish my story, and I couldn't find my headphones, and I was trying to feed my dog and blah, blah, blah. Running all over the place, so typical Sunday morning before recording.
Yeah. I thought I was having an unsuccessful day, but I made pasta and sauce for lunch.
Ooh.
And then I hoovered and I did the washing up, and then Carly crawled in and just crawled onto the sofa.
I'm glad she had a good time.
Yeah, so am I. She really deserves it. But yeah, she basically stayed out really late, and some girl had done mushrooms.
Oh.
Then they were like, look, just come. She started freaking out, and they were like, look, just come back to ours. Everything's fine. And she was like,
Yeah.
no. And ran off into the night. And then Carly was like,
oh no,
this is really killing my buzz.
Yeah. Time to go.
Yeah, she was like, that's why I stayed at my mate's house, because I was just I don't have the energy to walk home. All my energy has been poured into controlling a drugged up bitch.
Yeah. I mean, was that girl all right in the end? I'm sure she was.
Yeah, she was fine. It wasn't proper mushrooms. It was some sort of truffle oil or something that you can legally buy here now. But seriously, if somebody said to me oh, do you want to do this mushroom oil on top of being drunk? But no, I bloody don't.
I'm good, thanks.
No, because I'm not 25 anymore.
Yeah, probably bought from some little shop in Camden where there's just weed paraphernalia everywhere, even though you can't buy weed.
Oh yeah, I really want to bend my sanity even further. Yeah, I can't. Oh, please, morph my reality. That's already fucking exhausting.
Real life is enough.
No, I think I'll have a little bit of a fag, feel sick, and then go home if it's all the same with you. Yeah, and then I tried to listen to true crime bullshit, but I just wasn't listening to it. I wasn't really listening to it. Like, you just have a podcast like on near your face.
Yes, and then you like tune out, and then you keep rewinding it like 15 and 30
Yeah,
seconds because you
because
keep
it's
missing
so
it.
dense.
Yeah.
Also, like I forgot, I listened on the way home to this podcast that like I haven't listened to in ages. It's called All Killer No Filler. The person that does it is the person they mistook you for in the crime magazine.
Yeah.
Rachael
Was it
Fairburn.
Rachel Fairburn?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kiri Pritchard
Not my
McLean.
name.
Not your name. Your name is Rachel Pauser. But anyway,
Mhm.
I was mentioned correctly, and I'm sure it gave Rachel Fairburn some exposure. Basically, I was listening to that podcast, and I forgot like how funny they are. Like on one of them, they were talking about a serial killer who like canned meat, he like put
Mm.
pork into cans. I think he was called something
Mhm.
like Carl Denker. He was like a cannibal. Then Rachel on there was like, "Oh, what meat do you get in like a pot or a can?"
In a can.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then Kiri was like hot dogs, and then they were like, "Yeah, no,
Yeah.
hot dogs are brilliant." But Kiri's a vegetarian, a vegan now, so she was like, I really miss hot dogs, and I tried to have like a vegan hot dog, and then she said that it was tofu, and she was like, it was the
Ew.
driest thing I've ever put in my mouth. She was like, it's like someone just put like a dried up old cat shit in a bun.
Oh my gosh.
Also, we've been watching Malcolm in the Middle all day. And
Mm.
there's an episode where like Hal brings in like an old wardrobe off the street. And
I remember that one.
he goes, "That's weird. Why would somebody put loads of tiny bow ties in there?" And he's like, "They're bats." And they just release bats
I
into the
knew it.
house.
I was like, I remember that episode, and something, was it like fleas or something fly out or something, but it's bats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
loads of bats. The funniest bit on there is when he says that Dewey, like the smallest kid, has to go in and get the last
Yeah.
bat. And he's like, "Why do I have to do it?" And he's like, "Because you have the shortest hair, son. And if it gets in your hair, it'll just bite you once and fly off. And if it gets into mine and Malcolm's hair,
He's
it
such
will
a
keep biting
terrible
until we
dad.
die."
Poor Dewey. By the way, I think I could be wrong if any of my siblings are listening, but we had a hamster and its name was Dewey after Dewey and Malcolm
Oh,
in the Middle.
oh, I love those little guys. They just don't live long
Yeah.
enough. Like
No.
they live a
I'm
heartbreakingly
think
small amount of time.
they really do. I think it died when I went off to college, but they had a funeral for it
Oh,
and everything.
good send off.
Yeah, good send off. I was gonna say before we get into our stories this week, I also had a quick podcast recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
I just binged listened to Harsh Reality from Wondery.
Wondery never lets me down. I feel like Wondery is like the
No,
HBO of podcasts.
I think it is, and I caved and I paid for Wondery Plus.
Oh, mate, I'm seconds away from doing the same. I cannot blame you. Like, it's so good. They do
Yeah,
Operator, which is the one about the phone sex lines and how, like, it's like
yeah,
Succession. Like, they all fuck each other over in the end. So,
right.
what's Harsh Reality about?
So Harsh Reality is about this British show, which I never heard about, but it
Okay.
sounds crazy. It's about this trans woman who
Yes.
she's only 21 too, which
Yeah.
is kind of nuts, like
Yeah.
just super young. The premise of the reality show, which came out, I think they said it was like 2004 or something like that, which was like the height of like reality
Big Brother
shows.
was
Big Brother,
massive.
yeah.
They had a show
Yeah.
called Shattered where you weren't allowed to fall asleep for like it was like
Mm,
72 hours or something, or like even longer,
yeah.
and the last person awake won.
Yeah, and there was Fear Factor, and I think The Bachelorette was starting at that
Yeah,
time, which is huge now still.
yeah.
So this show is about this trans woman named Miriam, and it's basically a dating show where the men go to Spain and they all
Hmm.
stay in this villa.
I remember it.
And do you?
Yeah, I watched it. It was like all
Wow,
over the
I was going to ask you
papers.
that.
Yeah, because it's the
Yeah,
show's
it
called There's
was.
Something About Miriam. And it's like,
Yes.
what is the
And
thing
so
about her?
well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
the premise
none of the men
is
know.
that she doesn't tell the men, and the production don't tell the men that she is a trans woman.
Yeah,
So
it's
it
playing with
really is,
everybody's
and
emotions.
even though this is like 20 years later, that would not fly today. Like that
No.
this whole premise of the show, and they talk about how, the bad jokes that people make, and just, yeah, it's just not a cool thing to do to people,
Well,
whether it's her or...
the premise is like, ha ha, you kissed a man. That's what they're
Yeah,
trying to get.
that's how they
That's
dealt
the
with it.
punchline
Yeah,
of their joke. And it's like,
right.
no, you didn't.
Exactly. And at the end of the show, too, they explain in the podcast how it was like at the beginning, everyone was like, haha, this is what's going to happen. But then at the end, all the production just felt awful.
Which you
And
would,
like,
but I
yeah,
think,
you should.
and then like as soon as people kind of figured out that she might be trans,
They were sent
they were
off.
sent off. They were like, okay, this week
Yeah.
you have to get rid of Mike or whoever, because
Yeah.
they could record all of their conversations, and they found out
And
that
they
some
knew
of them
which
were
ones were
talking
like figuring it out.
suspicious.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Although I don't know, because I basically listened to the show and then I googled Miriam to find out where they are now. And
Oh, don't tell me, because
no, I
I
don't
haven't
know.
listened to it all yet.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay.
but like I and then I saw some sort of spoiler thing, and then I was like, don't look. And then I haven't
Yeah.
finished the podcast, but something has happened since the end of that show, basically. That's
Yes.
big.
Yeah, because the men got really angry. They thought the production and Miriam thought that they were all unsafe because some of the
They had
men
to get in like a
were
psychologist, didn't
homophobic.
they? Like,
Yeah, that's just a good podcast to listen
fascinating.
to.
And
Yeah.
sometimes when I look back on the 90s, I can't believe the shit that flew around.
No.
Like, even the early 2000s, I just can't believe it. Like, on
Right.
TV, there was like, on Big Brother, they let them play strip poker on one
Mhm.
of the British ones, and this girl called Jay Goody, who is, well, she's dead now. She died of like cervical
Yeah.
cancer. And
Yeah.
but anyway, in the show, she was like really bullied. She wasn't as
Yep.
smart as the others, and they played strip
Yeah.
poker with her, and she ended up completely naked. And like
Mhm.
no one,
Yeah.
and everyone else had their clothes on. And it's like, that is fully
Right.
bullying someone.
It really
You gave
is.
them booze
Yeah.
and then you let them play strip poker until she was naked because it was good for TV.
And to make it worse, the British like tabloids are even
They
harsher.
were calling her like a fucking pig, like they were saying like, "Oh, Jade the
Mm.
ugly pig," and it's just like, fucking hell, man, it's a bit
Yeah,
much.
which is also what happened to Miriam. Like,
Yeah,
she got ripped apart in the tabloids as well.
yeah,
So, yeah, have a listen to that. That's my recommendation for this week.
great recommendation.
And
Just fucking
thanks.
sign up
Yeah.
to Wondery. Just
I
honestly, it's
know.
just so
We're
worth
not
it.
sponsored
Not
by them.
sponsored by
Maybe
them.
someday.
I fucking hope. I don't know. Their quality is really up there, Rach. I just
Yeah.
don't know if we've got it.
What kind of tin can operation would they accept there? No.
Our production values would have to go a lot higher. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to treat yourself to binge listening, then that is definitely the way forward.
Yeah. I think there's like one episode left which explains what happened to Miriam after all of that. Because they
Yes.
haven't really gotten into it. They mostly talk about the men and how the
Yeah.
men were affected.
The men are on it, aren't
Um,
they? A lot of them,
some of them, yeah.
which
The
is
main guy
interesting.
that wins, in quotes,
Yeah, it is
they
because
interview
the
him.
theory was like the Bachelorette, like you have to impress
Yeah.
her enough that she chooses you to be together with her.
Yeah.
And she was stunning
Right.
in the show. She was like FHM, like Victoria's Secret model. Out of every one of those blokes' leagues, none of them
Right.
would have been able to get her on a
I'd love
normal
to see what
day.
those guys look like. I would love to see what they look like. I haven't looked at any of them yet.
They were just normal, really. Like they were good looking. Like they were just normal lads. None of them were models, but none of them were ugly. They were just normal, like
Okay.
your brother's mates.
What did you think at the time when you watched it? Do you remember having any thoughts or feelings about it then? Like, how old were you? Probably like 10 or something?
No,
Or
because
12?
if it was 2004, I would have been 15, 14.
Okay.
I
I'm not
just
sure it was 2004, but
well, I just
yeah.
remember thinking like, wow, what's going to happen when they find out? It wasn't
Yeah.
even really like I remember thinking like they're going to be so fucking angry. Somebody's going to
Mm-hmm.
get like punched in the face.
Which is kind of what happened.
Kind of. You just remember thinking shit. Like when this comes out,
Yeah.
it's not going to be good. Which
Right.
why would you do? It was like a ticking time
I
bomb.
know. It really
horrible,
was.
what, like car crash TV. Yeah.
Which is why people watched it, because they probably had the same exact thought, like, what is going to happen? And
Yeah.
it's so horrible, too. Like, they explain it in the podcast. Well, you should just listen to the podcast, but
Yeah.
just the immature, you can just imagine, like, we've all experienced it, like, being 20 and being laughed at by, like, a 20-year-old immature man.
Yeah.
There was that element, too.
The
It's just
blokey
so horrible.
mentality of that time as well. There was no,
Yeah.
we say like these days men, there's a whole stigma about men's mental health and stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
I remember being
Yeah.
that age and like calling people gay and being like, oh, what
Yeah.
are you, a fucking homo? Like all of that stuff
Right.
completely was
Right.
okay to say.
Yeah.
Nobody
It was normal.
nobody batted an eyelid at going, oh, what are you, gay? Like if you were in any way upset,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Right.
just mad. And it was only about
Yeah.
15 years ago. It just blows my
I know.
mind. It blows my mind.
I feel like even like personally in the past like 5 years, I've shifted out of that mentality because it takes work. Some people don't
Imagine
take
what boomers feel like.
that work.
Must be like twice as hard for them.
Well, I applaud any boomer who does take the work to
Modifies
like
their
shift how they
behavior.
think, and yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because it does take a lot of work,
I love
especially
it
for
when
like
people
white people like us.
I love when people are like, God, you can't say anything these days, can you? Well, no, you can't say anything, no.
Right.
And
Don't
rightly so.
worry about it.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Like, oh God, you can't say. No, you cannot. And rightly, like, you
Right.
can't. So you should not be able to
Yeah.
say any fucking thing that pops into your head. It's not your God-given right to be a cunt 24/7. Like,
No. Anyway, that's us. That's our TED Talk for
yeah, thanks
today.
for coming and see you later. No, just kidding. Still murder to
Just
come.
kidding.
And
All right, should
Christmas-themed
we get into
murder.
it?
Yeah.
Yes. Christmas themed.
And
Christmas disasters.
yes, it's your week first this week, Rach. So I'm just going to
Okay.
sit
All
back
right.
and enjoy.
Yeah. So I was researching like horrible Christmas disasters.
Again, unfair
And
because
then
in America there's just
yeah.
so many more people, so many more guns, so many more explosives readily available. Like I was just lucky that I saw something on the telly this week that got me my story. And thank God.
Okay, that's good.
But you
Yeah,
have a smorgasbord.
I do, but some of them were just so depressing.
Mine's pretty depressing. Is yours not?
Oh, okay.
Okay, just to warn you. But
Not
yeah, go ahead.
really.
Go ahead.
No, that's why I'm like setting this up because I was like like last year I did a depressing story about a fire on Christmas and it killed like almost a whole family. Remember, it's like a mystery
Oh,
how
yes. Yeah,
some of
yeah,
them
yeah,
were
yeah.
missing, some of them died.
Yeah, that is one of the great unsolved mysteries, isn't it? Along with
Yeah,
like the Dial
check
of
that one
Past,
out.
which is apparently now solved.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I think that's just like a running theme on Christmas or around the holidays is there's always going to be horrible Christmas fires that kill a whole bunch of people. So I skipped it. We've had a rough year. Here's something a little bit lighter.
Okay.
Okay. So we're in Cisco, Texas. It's
Mm.
1927.
Ooh.
A man named Marshall Ratliff has just been released on parole after robbing a bank. So
Okay.
for that crime, the previous crime, 24-year-old Marshall robbed a bank with his younger brother Lee, and the two had bragged about it drunkenly and spent their money freely and openly. Had they not done that, they probably would have gotten away, but because they were bragging and drunk and spending all their money,
Silly
they
boys.
were caught. Yeah, they were caught, tried, and convicted and sent to prison. So by 1927, they were both paroled after 1 year in prison. So that's where we're at. This is who this is about,
Well,
Marshall.
sentences for robbing people weren't very high back then. Or robbing banks, I guess. Now they're really harsh, right?
Yeah, they are. And I believe after this time, so we're going to talk about this a little bit, but at the time, bank robberies were just happening all the time. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was like the start of it. So I think because it wasn't such a harsh punishment, then people started doing it all the time.
Yeah.
And
Ramped up.
then they started changing it. Yeah. So Marshall briefly searched for work around West Texas, but was convinced that he wouldn't find anything in the oil fields. It was a very rural area with like small towns.
Mm-hmm.
He also didn't want to work hard labor, so he settled in a boarding house in Wichita Falls, about 2 hours from Cisco, and he began planning his next heist. He was just like, I don't want to work. I'm going to rob another bank.
Seems a tad lazy, this fellow.
Lazy, but also thinking he's smarter than everyone.
Okay.
So in Texas, so this is kind of what I just was talking about. In Texas at this time, 3 to 4 banks a day were being robbed, especially in small towns like Cisco.
Oh my God.
So Cisco had a population of about 8,000, and that was kind of similar to towns in that area around Texas. So it was really just easy to rob a bank and
You'd
get
think
away.
they'd come up with a system. I guess they did come up with a system of like the money gets stained or whatever.
Here's what they came up with at that time in 1927. Remember, Texas, people love their guns in Texas.
Yeah.
So this is what the Texas Bankers Association announced. They announced the, in quotes, Dead Robber Award, where they would reward anyone who shot a robber in the act $5,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Vigilante justice. It's best.
I know, right? But they also said not 1 cent for 100 live ones. So it was only if you shot a robber dead. Also, $5,000 was a lot at that time.
You're going for a headshot. No knee or thigh.
Yeah. Rural Texas, everyone had guns. So everyone's just ready for a fight.
Yeah.
So with this in mind, Marshall planned to create a distraction, and he brought in a few other men to his planned robbery. He brought in 32-year-old ex-con Henry Helms and 21-year-old Robert Hill, as well as Marshall's brother Lee, who helped him rob the last bank, who was also out on parole. Marshall explained his plan. The men would rob the Cisco First National Bank on Christmas, with Marshall dressed as Santa Claus to distract everyone, while the 3 men would follow, holding up the bank employees. Yeah.
Also, if there's like a $5,000 if you shoot a bank robber dead, I swear to God, I'd just start hanging out in banks and be like, any day now, it's gonna happen. Right. Just sat in the corner with like a sniper. It's gonna happen
at this bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's planning this robbery, but in the weeks leading up to the robbery, a few things went wrong for Marshall. First, his brother Lee decided to rob a separate bank spur of the moment on his own.
Oh,
Lee was quickly arrested and thrown back in jail. Marshall didn't have his brother to help.
Ruined.
Desperate for the extra help, Marshall recruited another man, 22-year-old Lewis Davis, who had no criminal background but was roped in as it was Christmas time and he was desperate for money for his wife and children. Imagine, he's 22, he's got a wife and a couple of kids, he has no money. He just sounded like a desperate man trying to make his family happy for Christmas.
I don't know if I feel as sorry for him as you do. Get a
I
job.
do for what happened. Get a job.
Like, you're in
Go
Texas.
work in the oil fields.
Like, there's plenty of work to be had, I'm sure.
I mean, this was 1927, so it was
it like
Great
the
Depression era. Yeah.
It sounds to me like he's like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Jingle All the Way, and he's just waited till Christmas Eve and then go, oh fuck, I've got nothing. Then he's at to like the clock's ticking.
His wife is like, have you bought that toy train yet? Go out and buy it. Like, and then he can't find it, and then So Marshall asked his landlady, who had sewn a Santa suit for her husband, if he could borrow the suit for the day. The disguise was better than just the standard robber's bandana, as it hid his whole face.
Yeah.
And because it was Christmas time, no one would bat an eye.
I reckon there's a few Santas like walking around town as well, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So, on the evening of December 22nd, 1927, the 4 men stole a Buick and drove the 200 miles from Wichita Falls to Cisco, stopping off in an oil field camp where Lewis Davis's sister lived. Lewis's sister's husband refused to let the men stay in their home. It's because they were all drinking and driving, and by the time they got to their place, they were all just like wasted.
Wow.
So the men took a tent and camped outside in the front yard.
Fair.
Yeah. The next day, the men drove the rest of the way to Cisco. They parked in the outskirts of Cisco, where Marshall put on his Santa suit, and he started walking down Main Street, being very obvious, waving at families and like saying, "Hi, kids."
What? I don't understand this like mentality. This isn't really
I
hiding in
think
plain sight,
you'll
is it?
find it's, well, he's trying to create this distraction because then kids start following him. So he also has this like added shield of kids so that he won't get shot.
I guess.
The kids start following him. They're like shouting their last minute Christmas requests, wanting to sit on his lap, all that kind of stuff. The three other men parked the getaway car in the alley behind the bank and waited for their moment. Marshall entered the bank, followed by the three men and a bunch of other kids. The three men piled in and they said, I don't know if they said this, but I can imagine, this is a hold up.
Fuck off. That did not happen.
I was watching a YouTube video of this man who was, I think he's from Texas or something, and he just stands next to historical buildings and says historical stories, and I stole that from him.
Nice. He was totally like showboating there.
Yes, yeah, definitely. This is a hold up. So that's happening at the same time. A 6-year-old girl, Frances Blazingame, I hope I'm saying that right, and her mother, who were shopping on Main Street, noticed Santa entering the First National Bank. 6-year-old Frances ran across the street to the bank, excited to speak to Santa, and her mother followed. When they entered the bank, they quickly realized something was wrong. Santa and the three men had their pistols drawn at the staff and customers inside.
Horrifying.
6-year-old kid's dreams shattered.
Santa's robbing a bank. This is how he pays for everybody's presents.
Oh, I bet that was like the lie that people told their kids. Like, Santa just had to get more cash.
Yeah. You think money grows on trees? Santa has to get the money from somewhere.
His elves can't make everything.
Now come along.
Yeah.
Out the bank now.
So the mother and daughter quickly ran to the unguarded side door and out into the alley, past the getaway car, and they ran down 2 blocks yelling that they needed help. And they made it to City Hall, where the police, I say in heavy quotes, police department.
Right. Jim
because
the
sheriff police in the town,
is just
there were only 3 police officers.
Yeah.
So they found Police Chief Bitt Bedford, who was the same man who caught Marshall and his brother a year prior after he heard them bragging about their crimes. Same guy. He knew who it was.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Marshall was inside filling his Santa sack with around $12,000 in cash and bonds.
He's really like committed to this costume.
Yeah. He's like that other guy when the episode that we did disguises.
Yeah.
I remember my guy, I think his nickname was Hollywood because he just got so into his disguises.
Maybe he really did say this is a hold up. Like, for the sounds of things, he fucking went there.
Yeah. Jolly.
Thank you very much. Ho, ho, ho. He leaves.
So the mother and daughter alerted the police and they showed up. Remember, it's only like 3 men. With guns blazing, and despite the customers inside, began shooting inside the bank. And Marshall and his men began returning fire.
That's not very Christmassy.
Remember? Guns everywhere.
Fucking hell.
Texas.
You drop though, don't you? You drop to the floor.
Yeah. The robbers were done filling up their bags and headed for the side door, using the customers and employees as human shields.
No.
Several hostages were hit. And they don't know if it was from the cops or the robbers.
Wow.
Local grocer Oscar Oscar Cliet. He had been in the bank to make a deposit. He suffered a bullet wound to his foot. And Marion Olson, a Harvard student home for the holidays, was shot in the thigh.
Okay, well, they're both livable injuries.
There were a couple other people who were shot and died a couple of days later, I believe.
That's awful.
Marshall was grazed in the leg and face, and Lewis Davis, the 22-year-old dad who didn't have any prior convictions or criminal background, he was hit the worst. He was hit in the chest and legs. Police Chief Bedford had also been fatally shot during the holdup.
No, one out of 3 of your police force is gone.
I think one of the other men too.
Bad day.
Yeah, not a good day. The men made it to the car only to find that it barely had any gas to get going.
Oh, for fuck's
sake, they flagged
you had
down...
one job. I guess they were drunk the night before.
They were drunk, and also early 20s. Your brain isn't fully formed yet.
Honestly, that's like going, right, getaway car. Where did I put those keys? Yeah. Come on!
Talicza, you're psychic. You're like
really?
already naming something.
Oh my God,
is
shut up.
about to happen. So they look at the gas tank. There's barely any gas left. They flag down an Oldsmobile with a family in it, shoving out the driver, who was 14-year-old Woodrow Harris.
Why are you driving at 14? Texas.
This is Texas in the 20s. I think you could probably learn to drive when you were like 10.
Fuck me.
No laws yet. As long as you could see over the wheel,
yeah.
it was fine. Woodrow was driving his parents and grandmother. They were all pushed out of the car, and the 3 men got in the car. Big commotion because they're shoving in the sacks of cash. And Lewis, who's like he can barely walk because he's just dying, basically. They put him on top of all the cash in the back.
So that's nice and bloodstained and useless.
Right.
Well done.
So during the commotion of stealing the Oldsmobile, as the men went to start the car, they noticed that they didn't have keys because Woodrow, as the family had run away, 14-year-old Woodrow had taken them with him. So good job, Woodrow.
What a G.
Yeah, fast thinking.
It's like, fine,
from
you can have my car, but you can't have the fucking keys.
Can't do anything without these. And that family had also like run off and hid in a farmhouse.
Okay.
The robbers ran back to their Buick, leaving Lewis Davis behind, who was bleeding out in the back seat. As they jumped into their Buick, they grabbed 2 young girls, 10 and 8-year-old Laverne and Emma May, as hostages and shields, because the police were still following them and shooting at them. And they used what little gas they had to drive away. I think because the police were on foot, too, then they were able to get away.
Yeah.
Police caught up to Lewis in the Oldsmobile and found that he was lying on a pile of money. The robbers had barely taken any of the cash with them after all of that, so they left most of it behind.
I'm sorry, but I think if I'm doing a retrospective look at this is all poor planning.
It was.
Yeah.
A lot of the articles that I read was like, Marshall Ratliff put a ton of planning into this with his Santa suit and getting the men and thinking up this distraction, but the actual like
execution just wasn't
robbery
there.
And getaway especially, just it all went to shit because the mother and daughter found them.
The 6-year-old.
And they were able to like escape and run and tell the police. So
but they should have had that contingency. Like, the bank is busy, it's Christmas.
Right. What was I going to say? Oh, there was around 16 people in the bank at the time as well.
Yeah, busy.
So they took the little girls and they drove away. Police caught up to Lewis and found that he was laying on a pile of money. I already read that. I also as I was writing this, I was thinking, like, I wonder if they were stupid and they were like, maybe if we leave the cash behind with Lewis, then they'll think that it was just him that stole all the money and they won't chase us.
No way. They would have known, like, there was the loads of gunshots and, like, loads of witnesses.
Right. So Marshall, Henry, and Robert eventually abandoned the Buick, which by that point was gasless. It had a bunch of bullet holes in it, and it had 2 flat tires.
Oh, what? I guess they got shot out or something.
Yeah.
No.
When police caught up to the car, they found Laverne and Emma huddled in the back. They were safe and untouched, but they were obviously
Oh,
traumatized.
I'm so glad they're okay though.
Again, dreams crushed. Santa just kidnapped you,
A
followed by
bloody
guns
angry
blazing.
Santa
Yes.
forever ruined your Christmas. Yeah.
Oh, traumatizing.
Yeah.
In the following days, Ratliff, Helms, and Hill would steal 2 more cars, take another hostage, and do their best to evade authorities amid the woodsy terrain along the Brazos River.
They got no money now, right? They're just wounded and running away.
Yeah, basically,
Fuck
yeah.
me. That's so
They
pointless.
probably no bullets left. They're hiding in the woods. They're trying to steal cars. And they have a couple of wounds themselves.
Yeah.
Like you said, angry and bloody
Yeah.
Santa. Probably no change of clothes too, so he's probably running around in his Santa costume that
Or he's
whole
trying
time.
to like cut the sleeves off so it's like a sexy little Santa costume and not like a full one. Wearing the beard
Yeah.
as a wig. Like he's really trying to like when Marge Simpson gets that Chanel suit and she just like rejigs it every time.
Keeps wearing it.
Yeah.
So the robbery resulted in the largest manhunt the state had ever seen, and the police actually released a generic photo of Santa Claus.
Oh, we
It
know
was
what Santa
literally
looks like.
Yeah, it was an illustration of Santa Claus. Like,
Just in
have you
case
seen
you
this
missed it.
man?
Fucking hell.
Yeah. Santa, aka Marshall, was eventually gunned down by a deputy sheriff
Oh,
outside
dear.
South Bend, and the 2 other men escaped temporarily before being captured by authorities in Graham, Texas, which is about an hour from Cisco, where this all happened. Robert Hill, one of the other men, he pled guilty to armed robbery. All of the men got pretty harsh sentences.
Well, they caused a fiasco.
They did. So he pled guilty to armed robbery and was sentenced to 99 years in jail. He escaped 3 times, was recaptured, and was eventually paroled in the mid-40s.
Right.
So that's Robert Hill. Henry Helms, he was 32. He was sentenced to the electric chair,
Ooh.
and he was executed on September 6, 1929, which was like a year and a half after all this happened.
Those sentences rocketed up.
Yeah. Marshall, he was sentenced to 99 years in prison. On November 19th, 1929, almost 2 years since the incident that left 11 dead and more injured.
God, that's loads.
A mob formed outside the Eastland County Jail where Marshall stayed in his cell. The mob stormed the jail. They grabbed Marshall and dragged him out. At the time, there was a play going on down the street, and one of the mob grabbed like a prop rope from the play and tied it around Marshall's hands and feet and neck. The mob hung 26-year-old Marshall from a nearby power pole.
Whoa, that is Texas for you.
He died. It is.
That is pretty fucking Texas.
People were angry.
Yeah.
Several thousand people viewed Marshall's body the next day at a furniture store in Eastland before Judge Garrett ordered the corpse locked up. Remember, this is the 20s. People didn't have a lot of entertainment.
1800s though. Like this, like in the 20s, people had cars. You're talking like this is like medieval Britain. Fuck me.
What do you want to do today? You want to go for a drive or you want to go see a corpse? What do you want to do?
Let's go check out the corpse of that guy that robbed the bank like 2 years ago. God, Texas must be boring.
Sorry to any Texas listeners. I know it's not boring. There's some very cool spots there.
I'm scared to go there now.
Hopefully things have changed in the past 100 years.
Someone's going to write in and be like, no, I went and saw a corpse last week. Absolutely nothing's changed.
That's all I had to do.
Yeah.
There was a corpse.
What, Corpse Tuesdays? Yeah, we do every week.
Corpse Tuesdays. So no one was ever tried in association with the lynching, although many people in the town claim to have either been at the lynching or know someone who was part of the mob.
That's the thing.
And
no one's ever charged for a lynching, are they? Like, I don't know
No.
anybody. It's complete clown court. Because people are like, all right, well, you shouldn't have done it, but justice has been served.
And it's always done in a group.
Yeah.
So Jim tied the rope, but that's all he did. And I didn't hang anyone. I was just there. I
Yeah,
saw it.
it's confusion, it's chaos, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they rely on.
Anger. Yeah. So to this day, the lynching rope is a prize exhibit in the Eastland County Law Enforcement Museum.
Wow.
And you could see it displayed. And the bank, the First National Bank in Cisco, has a painting of the robbery along with
like Santa.
articles from that time. So that's the story
Oh my
of
God, I'm gonna try and find it.
not really yeah, not really a disaster, but I think it was kind of a disaster in the end with
For them it
what
was.
happened with everyone. Yeah.
I don't know whether I want to
So
be
that's my story for this week.
Wow, that was a roller coaster. I don't know who I want to be in that story. Do I want to be the guy that got the chair, or do I want to be the guy that got lynched by the public? Because they both sound
Or do I want to be
absolutely horrible.
a parent of a child whose dreams were shattered and I had to
3
explain to
children.
them what happened?
3 children's dreams were crushed. 11 people died. Like,
Yeah.
fucking hell. To be fair, it was a disaster.
It was a disaster, yeah.
Yeah, I can't beat that. I'll be honest. Mine's nowhere near as entertaining.
Strap in for some depression.
But it will fucking bum you out. So
Okay.
so there's a program on Channel 5, which is basically the channel that me and Carly like to watch because they have just so much trash on there, like the cheesiest stuff. But like one of their programs was Children Who Kill, and we were like, oh,
Okay.
we haven't
Yeah.
seen this before, like some true crime that we haven't
Yeah.
seen, nice and rare. And this is a crime that happened on Boxing Day, so it's the day after Christmas Day. So you don't get that in America, do you? What do you call Boxing Day?
I mean, it's on the calendars here, but nobody knows what it means. I know what it means, but
yeah, I don't know.
I'll explain it real quick.
Yeah,
I think I'd explained it too in our last Christmas episode, but Boxing Day is basically back in like hundreds of years
times
ago.
of yore.
Everyone yeah, times of yore, before we were all born. People would have their Christmas Day and then they would box up their leftovers and maybe some gifts, and then on Boxing Day they would give it to the poor.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was going to be like fucking boxing.
No, that's what you'd think, right?
Yeah,
like some
boxing
kind
match.
of sport.
Yeah. Never really thought about it, probably because every Christmas and Boxing Day I've been too drunk or too obsessed with a toy to care why it's called that. But
Yeah.
okay, so my story is about Tony Bushby, and he's known as the Catfish Killer. So I'm sure there's a few catfish killers, but this was that was his moniker in the paper. So
yeah.
In 2011, Tony Bushby, born in 1999, was a 19-year-old who lived in Boreham Wood, which is a town in South Hertfordshire in England. So it's 12 miles northwest from central London, from Charing Cross.
Okay.
So it's northwest London. So he went to West Hertfordshire College, and he was a black belt in karate with hopes of becoming an instructor. I don't know why, but I feel like people who do karate are a bit losery. Sorry if you do karate, but it might be the way, it might just be because I've been like programmed with Ross from Friends calling it karate or something. Like, I just think like there's a lot of that, isn't there, with serial killers? Like, it's almost on the bingo. Like, they were really into their martial arts.
Yeah. I don't think it's the actual art form of karate isn't losery, but I think there's a lot of like white guys who get really into it, and
that's what it is.
Think that they're cooler than everyone,
or think they're going to be able to kick anyone's ass when really they're like doing up their little dressing gown and somebody just punches them straight in the face.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was really good at it. He was a black belt, and he was teaching other people. So he went to, as I said, West Hertfordshire College, and that was where he met Katie Wynter, who everybody called Katie. So she was 18, and she was a promising student, and she was really shy and quiet, and she attended church every Sunday. So she was studying illustration at the College of Art and Design. And even though Tony and Katie went to the same college and that's how they knew each other, they didn't share any classes and none of their friends ever reported seeing them together. So
Okay.
people who knew Katie said that she was a really quiet person, but as is normal of like that era, she was really active on social media. So
Okay.
she made friends with
MySpace, probably, right?
it was Facebook
At that
because it
time?
was 2011, so
Facebook.
Facebook's just come out.
Oh,
It
okay.
came out in 2008,
Yeah.
didn't it? So yeah,
Yeah.
so Facebook's pretty new, so they're friends on Facebook. And they chatted online and he introduced her to some other of his Facebook friends. So one of them was called Dan Tress, one of them was called
Mm-hmm.
Sin Darwin, one of them was called Shane Pluon, and one of them was called Crystal Stangard.
Okay.
So Katie wasn't sure that she liked Tony romantically, but he kind of said to her, I really like you." And then as she was friends with all of his other friends on Facebook, they started saying, "Oh, he's a really great guy. Like, he's really great at
Mm.
karate. He's really nice and kind and romantic, and you should definitely go out with him."
Yeah.
So she ended up like, giving him a chance. And a fellow student of the two said that she thought Katie fell in love with him after they were chatting on Facebook. And she said, "I didn't get the impression that she saw much of him. And she contacted him primarily through Facebook, phone calls, and texting. And she would always
Mm.
say that the relationship was fine. Like if you said, 'Oh, how are you and your boyfriend?' She'd be like, 'Yeah, we're good, we're fine.' And
Yeah.
that they used to meet up in a forest near where they lived in Boreham Wood, and they would just talk and kiss. Like it was
Aw.
quite sweet and quite romantic, and nothing,
Yeah, kind of innocent.
yeah, nothing more than kissing. Like,
Yeah.
and then another college friend of theirs said that Katie was shy and secretive about the relationship, and that she rarely discussed it unless you asked her.
Okay.
So she was quite shy about having a boyfriend. And her family suspected that she had a boyfriend, but they could never find out who it was because she just didn't. She was
Mm.
like, None of your beeswax." So,
Okay.
so Christmas Day came and went, um, and the pair were reportedly still meeting in secret in like nearby parks and at the woods and stuff. And then on the 26th, which as we know is Boxing Day, Katie agreed to look after her two young nieces for her sister Sabrina, who was spending the night away from home with her boyfriend. So, as she left, Sabrina warned Katie to lock the door and not let anybody in. After not hearing from her the following morning, Katie's mum went to check on her, and she was told by her grandchildren who ran down the stairs they were two little girls that were 3 and 4 years old. And they ran
Oh.
downstairs and they said, "Grandma, Katie's dead." I
No.
know. So
They're at ages where maybe they would forget that. Maybe,
hopefully,
hopefully, they don't remember.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think I remember barely anything from being 3 and 4, although
No.
it wasn't that
Yeah.
bad. So, but yeah, again, hopefully they can just like not drag that about with them. So
Yeah.
the mum followed a trail of blood that led towards the kitchen, and she found Katie slumped against the fridge, surrounded in a pool
Oh.
of blood. She had been stabbed 23 times, and out of the 23
Whoa.
wounds, yeah, 13 were significant wounds, and then the rest were like defensive injuries. So, cuts to
Wow.
her hands and arms where she tried to protect herself. So,
Yeah.
the wound that had killed her was a severe wound to the neck and a stab wound to the stomach that had penetrated her vital organs. So, that is
Oh.
fucking savage.
Poor Katie.
Yeah, she had been lying in the kitchen of her sister's house all night with her nieces upstairs.
Oh.
So, I mean, later on you find out the time of her death. They think it was between 9:30 and
Oh,
2
so
2 in the
almost
morning.
right
So
away.
they were in bed. The kids were in bed,
Yeah.
at least.
Mm-hmm.
The police were called, and after they inspected Katie's laptop and phone, they discovered that Tony Bushby was Katie's boyfriend. So they paid him a
Mm.
visit. And he told police that he'd spoken to her the previous night as he walked home, and she told him that she was babysitting, and that was all that would happen. And he also
Mm-hmm.
denied being her boyfriend and said that they were just
Oh.
friends.
One of those guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Shame to me, are ya?
Mm-hmm.
So Police found Katie's blood on the front door of Bushby's home, which is obviously kind of bang to right situation.
Yeah, how'd
And
that get there?
well, Rachel, I'll tell you what he said. He said
Okay.
that it had come from the gloves that he was wearing and that they had been given to him by Dan Tress, which was one of his friends that Katie was
Okay.
speaking to on Facebook. He went on to
Okay.
he went on to deny the murder and blame the entire thing on his friend Dan. So
Wow.
detectives made searches of income tax records, criminal databases, and the DVLA, which is like driving database.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody with that name existed. Tony
Okay.
Tony said that he knew Dan Tress through the karate clubs, so they made inquiries at the clubs, but again, nobody of that name was found. It was then
Yeah.
revealed that like they googled him and the name Dan Tress is a character in a fantasy book called Swords of
What?
the Six by Scott Appleton, which he had.
What a nerd.
Nerd.
That's like that's like you get caught for a crime and you're like, "Oh yeah, I these gloves were given to me by Ron Weasley."
Yeah, like Dumble, first name Dumble, second name Door. Like, get in the van. When detectives studied his computer, they found out that all of the friends, Dan, Sin, Shane, and Crystal, were made up, and that he had invented them to communicate with Katie, convincing her that they were
Oh.
real. And the profile pictures of them were found in his recycling, like, the recycling bin on your computer. They
Yeah.
found all the
Uh-huh.
profile photos just in there, like sloppy work.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so they were just stock photos of people. And the police, knowing he had made Dan up, came to the obvious conclusion that he was the murderer. And he was
Mm-hmm.
arrested the next day. He was arrested on the same day that Katie was found, which was 27th of December.
Wow. Good
Um,
police work. Fast.
it was
Fast and efficient.
it was fast, but also like you can tell that like he's 19 and that was there's I mean, you could argue there's forward planning in that he's a liar, but
Yeah.
there's no forward planning to delete the digital trail that you've obviously left.
Right.
So it's a difficult one. So the next day, on the 28th of December, he asked to speak to the officers and told them, I made a mistake when I told you about my whereabouts. It wasn't true. I was with someone else and they asked me to do a favour for them and I did. The police officer stopped him and asked him if what he was about to say was going to get him in trouble, and he replied, yes. Like, I love
Okay.
that the police officer's like, "Da-da-da-da-da-da. Whatever you're going to say, stop. Because
Wait.
you're a fuckhead,
Maybe
and
think about this.
yeah.
Think about this for a second.
Yeah, look. Right. So he was subsequently prosecuted for the murder of Katie. He pleaded not guilty. I don't know what lawyer is telling
What?
him to plead not guilty, but they are
Unless he's pleading
insanity.
insanity
It doesn't seem
or
like he is.
defense.
It doesn't seem like he is. It seems like he's just pleading
Hmm.
not guilty and blaming it on someone else.
Okay.
Um, so his trial started in July 2012 at St Albans Crown Court. During the trial, it was discovered that following the murder, Tony went to his family home nearby and destroyed his mobile phone. So he'd like smashed up the
Okay.
phone and smashed up the SIM card to cover up what had happened and destroy evidence. Well, you didn't smash up her phone and SIM card, so that was fucking stupid.
No, and you didn't delete the fake profile pictures of your fake friends.
No. Well, he put them in the recycling bin, so I think he just forgot to empty the bin. So, prosecutor Michael Speake said he systematically tricked Katie over a period of time into believing that she was in contact with the defendant and with a small circle of his friends. He used them to say things about him to gain her trust. They said flattering or impressive things about him to get him to like her. He also said, so the prosecutor also said about the nieces, those young children had no real comprehension of the appalling nature of what had just happened in the house, which
Hmm.
is very true.
It's true.
So the jury also heard that after Katie was murdered, Tony had made inquiries to Facebook about how to remove an account. Um,
What?
he doesn't seem all a ticket, you know?
No.
At the same time, he was viewing pornographic and rape websites and carrying out Google searches in which he asked questions such as, how long does it take to dig a grave by hand? Fucking long time, mate, I'll tell you that. And how long does it take to burn a human body? I'll answer that for you again, Tony. A fucking long time. After doing this
And a
podcast for
lot
a
of
year and a
work.
half, both of
I
those
was just
things
gonna...
take ages. All right? The answer that should pop up
Yeah,
on your screen will be ages.
I'm pretty sure both of us have also Googled that.
Yep.
So if any police are listening and want to look at our search history, it's for this podcast
How long does it take
and
to dig
nothing
a grave
else.
by hand? That's such a like fucking millennial thing. Just do it. Don't Google it. Like he's like weighing up his options.
Buy a shovel, dude.
He's like, do you know what? I think I should probably Google this before I commit to an option. That's such a
Yeah.
millennial like mindset.
It really is. I'll just look it up really
Do you know
quick.
what? I'm not going to ask you one. I'll just Google it. I don't want to look stupid.
Yeah. Is it 5 hours or 12 hours? I
Because I
wonder.
need to
I should
be.
check.
I've got a shift coming up. What a dickhead. So this was after Katie was murdered sometime between 9:15 and 20 to 10 on Boxing Day night. So that's a pretty tight timescale
Yeah.
they've got there. Pretty
Yeah, that's really
precise
small.
for a time of
Yeah.
death. Bushby repeatedly looked at her Facebook account for the next hour. Why would you do that? You know,
After she died?
yeah.
Okay.
Maybe he's just being really creepy and just looking at photos. But you know that
Or
she's.
seeing if anyone
Oh, maybe he's
is
definitely checking that she's
writes to
dead.
her, or
Maybe
maybe.
he stabbed
Yeah.
her and ran and didn't know if he'd actually killed her. But 23
I
times is
feel
a lot of
like,
stabbing.
yeah. Yeah, he probably was making sure.
Yeah. He then disposed of blood-stained clothes and shoes in a bulky bin bag, which he was seen on CCTV carrying through Boreham Wood. He left the bag
Okay.
by the bins, not even in the bins, that were collected in the morning. But do you know what? The bin men collected them, so that and the murder weapon were never recovered.
What?
Just goes to show
Wow.
the devotion of the fucking bin men in Boreham Wood.
They are doing their jobs right after Christmas
I
and they are
know.
taking it seriously.
Wow. So, in a victim impact statement read to the court, Mrs. Davis said it was impossible to describe the devastation the loss of Katie had caused. She had an innocence
Mm,
about her, and it was because of that innocence that she died. And that's
yeah.
probably true. Christmas should be a peaceful and happy time, but for my family, its meaning has been changed forever, and we will never be able to celebrate in the same way. He's evil, and we will never forgive him.
Yeah.
And that's
Makes
exactly
sense.
how I would feel if someone killed someone. I'd be like, people are like, oh, it's not good to carry around ill feeling. I'd be like, I will wish you
No.
ill for the rest of your days. And
Yes.
I'm fine with that. Do
Yeah.
not get people who are like, oh, I can't carry around hate. I carry around more hate than is probably appropriate already, and no one in my family has been murdered. So the prosecutor also said, we will probably never know precisely why he murdered Katie, and we'll probably never know how far in advance that he intended to kill her. But there's an interesting documentary, and it's called The Babysitter and the Cyberkiller. And in that,
Mm.
Katie's sister Sabrina is 33, and she talks to I think it was in Glamour magazine.
Yeah.
They talk about the fact that that he was watching rape porn, and he was googling submissive black girl porn because
Oh.
Katie was black and he was white. And it said
Okay.
one film showed a woman forced to perform sex acts with a knife held to her throat.
Mm.
And Sabrina Charles, Katie's sister, is calling for a ban on racist pornography, which she
Mm-hmm.
believes motivated his attack. And she said
Yeah.
Bushby went from becoming obsessed with this type of violent fantasy to realizing he knows a black woman and making that obsession a reality. These films depict black
Mm.
women in a very specific and degrading way and can be seen as inciting racial hatred or promoting violence against black women. So
Yeah.
that's when they say like we don't know why he killed her or how far in advance he intended to kill her, like the type of porn that he was watching um was in the family's view and in her
Indicative.
sister's view, yeah,
Yeah.
indicative of something that he wanted to carry out in real life. So
Right.
that's super worrying. I didn't even know that type of porn
Yeah.
existed, but then there's loads of types of porn that I didn't know existed that
Porn is messed
recently.
up these days.
It really fucking is, man. There is nothing you cannot find. Also of note is that 3 days before the murder, Tony had lured Katie to a field on the outskirts of the town, claiming that they were going to meet up with one of his fictional friends called Sin Darwin. And then nobody turned up, so Katie and Tony left. So
Okay.
the judge
So he might have planned to do it
then. Yeah, but
and
he
that's
just
what
like,
they're saying. Okay.
yeah,
Choked.
so he just like pussied out of it. The judge, Andrew Bright, said an aggravating feature of the case was the planning and forethought shown by setting up fictional characters. He also said he was satisfied that the motive of the killing was sexual, stating you derived sexual excitement from the infliction of the knife wounds on her, referring to the stab wounds at the top of each of her thighs. He said, although there was no sexual assault, I am satisfied your motive was a sexual one and that you derived sexual excitement from inflicting those injuries upon her. I'm satisfied you intended to kill her and made sure you had done so before leaving her in a pool of blood in the kitchen where her young relatives found her. In the months leading up to the murder, you created fictional friends in order to gain Catherine Wynter's trust and say things on Facebook designed to mislead her. I am currently of the view that you pose a very real danger to women. And so on Tuesday, the 24th of July, he was found guilty of murder. And you, sir, may fuck off. On the 25th of July, he was sentenced to life with a minimum of 25 years before he can ask for parole.
Wow. So
And
he's in prison right now, and he
right
has about
now,
15
well,
years
this
left
was
before he can ask for
2012,
parole.
so 2047 before he
So
can
it's been
ask for
10
parole.
years. Yeah. And
Long
he's
time.
never admitted to why he did this. It's just
No.
been speculation by family and the judge. And
Yeah. I think, do you know what?
man, I hate this guy.
I think I also read that the judge had read a psychological assessment of him and like deemed him like fit to stand trial. So I think he pled not guilty and was going to go for an insanity defense, and then the judge was like, no. So he basically had to stick with his not guilty plea. I mean, what is your defense? I would love to read those court transcripts.
Yeah.
If I had...
And your lawyer. What is your lawyer saying?
That is a shitty public defender.
The only thing that I can think that would make him plead not guilty is a defense, like he was defending himself. That's the only thing that I can think. If you can't use insanity, then he might have tried to say, that he was in self-defense.
But
and it's like, well,
he doesn't seem to
that's
have
not
had a
going to work
fucking
either.
scratch on him, so...
Right, and he went to her house.
It's just awful as well, because like her sister was like, don't let anyone in, and she's like, it's okay, it's my boyfriend. That she's been seeing for... So, I think they were seeing each other for like 6 months or something, like...
And she's been lied to by him, by fake friends that he made up. Like, oh yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
That would convince me.
Telling her that he's
if
great.
I had made friends, even if I, at the time, if I were 20, this was around the time that we were in uni and that age as well.
Yep, absolutely it was, yeah.
I can imagine, like, I made friends online and I talked to people. If somebody that I trusted was like, yeah, this guy's great, you should totally go out with him, I probably would have gone along with it.
Yeah, definitely. People's like opinion on your boyfriend, that kind of matters to me now. If people were like,
it's important,
your boyfriend's a dick, I'd be like, oh, okay. Like, it takes a lot of energy to stick with something that everyone else hates.
Yeah. I had a friend very recently, I had just met her new partner, and afterwards it was just me and her, and she was like, so what did you think of them? And I was like, oh yeah, they're fine. Like, and she was like, what do you really think? Like, I want to know what my friends think of my new person.
Yeah, me too.
It's important.
And did you like
because your friends know you as well.
Did she listen?
I did
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good person, so it was fine. I think now, like, it doesn't happen very often, but if a friend was dating a shitty person, I'd probably be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I think I'd say something at the time. It in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were some... Hope that cheered up your Christmas. 11 people dead, 12 people dead, including poor Katie
Oh,
Wynter.
yeah.
You know, Joyeux Noël.
Well, if you want something a little bit cheerier, sign up to our Patreon and watch that this week on Christmas Eve.
And we're going to do more of those, right? We're going to be good.
We are.
We're going to
Yeah.
get on Santa's nice list by working ourselves to the bone.
Yeah. We'll just be dying on our Patreon videos. Anyways, hope everyone has a great Christmas, New Year, any holiday that you're celebrating. Be safe.
Yeah, when is this coming out?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, but we're going to do another one, right? Before then. What fucking day is Christmas Day?
It's Saturday. It's this coming Saturday.
Oh my Jesus Christ.
Talicza's like, I gotta go buy presents.
Oh my God, I've bought nothing. No, I'm joking. Like, life, I'm just horrified that life's slipping through my fingers.
Yeah. What year is it? It's Christmas?
What year is this?
Yeah.
It's Christmas Day. Right, we'll see you soon.
Boy, what day is this?
You're my boy. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Transatlantic Crime this week. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe.
And if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at TransatCrimePod, Instagram at Transatlantic Crime, and on Facebook with Transatlantic Crime Podcast.
Thanks, bye.